All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you as a part of Connecticut's Economic Development Week. You've tuned into our discussion entitled How to Thrive in a Pandemic, Profiles of Success. If you're a small business owner, one thing is for sure, this past year has been an incredibly trying time frame. If you're lucky, you've only struggled, but we've also watched small businesses close their doors, and we know that others are nearing a point where closing their doors is a real consideration. But there are also some businesses that have thrived during these times. They figured out ways to make it work, and we want to draw from what they've done and share those lessons with you so that you too might be able to apply some of those principles to find your own levels of success as we move forward while the pandemic is still in effect. So with us today are 5 business owners who are here to share how they've survived and thrived over the past year. We'll open up a Q&A session later in the program, but if a question comes to mind that you don't want to forget, please put it in the chat group, and I promise you I'll do everything I can to get to it. So we've only got an hour, so we'll jump right in and introduce our panel. So we'll go person by person. I'm going to do this in alphabetical order. So as we go through the panel, I'm going to ask alphabetical order by the first name. So I'm going to ask Elisa, would you please do me the honor of introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your company?
Well, good morning, Jimmy, and to my fellow panelists. Thank you so much for this invite. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Elisa Bowens Mercado. I am the owner, brewmaster, founder of Rhythm Brewing Company. We are Connecticut's first African-American and first African-American female-owned beer brand and company. We're very excited about that. We launched the company 3.5 years ago, and we had no idea that there was a pandemic coming. But I will tell you, we found our rhythm, and we survived and we thrived. And we're just excited to be here to tell our story and tell our journey and how we pivoted. But we are a beer brand out of Connecticut, and we are just excited to be joining you this morning.
All right, thank you. Ivy, we'll go. I'm messing up my whole alphabet here. Ivy, we'll go to you secondly.
Good morning. Thank you also for having me this morning. It's actually really nice to see faces that are in the same boat as I am. So my name's Ivy Mello. I own Ivy Simply Homemade in Waterford, Connecticut. We started out as a prepared meals storefront. When I was working full time, I never cooked for my husband and I, and eventually said, I think we can do this as a business. Took him to a local one in a neighboring town, and he looked at me and said, we can do this. So very excited to say that we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this week. So that's
nice.
Huge. I never thought we'd make it 10 years, especially the last year. We also are a full service catering company. So we do weddings, graduation parties, showers, drop-offs, pickups, everything in between. That has changed a little bit this year. We'll get into that a little bit more. But we've been a full-service catering company for 8 years now. And the quick story behind that was I've been catering since I was 18. I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. Went to school for massage therapy. Here I am still catering. So I don't think I'll ever fully leave it. We started out with 2 people. We started out writing our full menu on this chalkboard. And now we have about 30 different entrees that we sell, 20 or so different sandwiches and different sides, all different things that are for retail in our storefront. And it's really amazing to look back at how we started and where we are now. So one thing I love about like Facebook and Instagram is the memories that pop up, because I completely forgot where we were back then. I kind of feel that some of the keys to success for my business, for me personally, is I'm very involved with both my customers, my staff. I have a great, I know most of my customers by at least their name or what they order. I have a genuine interest in them. I personally try to go my best to go to all the weddings. And I really feel that that has been a key for my own success. And it's actually something I really, really enjoy also. So during COVID, we pivoted. We have some things that have changed, but we are still here. We're getting ready for catering season, and we're very excited to be a part of this today. So thank you.
All right, thanks for being here. Next, we'll go to Julie.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate you having me today, and glad to be here with all of you, and nice to learn more about the great business, small businesses in Connecticut. My name is Julie Brink, and I run Ellen Gill Welding and Manufacturing in Manchester. We're a small, privately held, industrial-based manufacturing company that provides specialty welding and fabrication to a wide range of aerospace and military organizations, from aircraft to submarines, fuel cells to nuclear power plants. We make a broad spectrum of parts and products, from specialty fittings of all sizes to heavy machinery components, primarily with the US government as the end user. Our over 50-year history, LM Gill has earned a reputation as a proven, reliable source of supply to the Department of Defense, commercial and military aviation, space exploration, as well as development and production programs for the nuclear navy and submarine industry. My team consists of about 40 highly skilled welders, machinists, engineers, quality professionals, and support staff. Most, all, there's one who's not from Connecticut, who live and work in Connecticut. I'm grateful for the state's support during COVID pandemic and beyond. LM Gill is what's called critical source for the United States critical infrastructure. So we've been working in person for the past 16 months or so since the pandemic began. LM Gill has been fortunate enough to be the beneficiary of a number of state of Connecticut programs over the years, including the latest DECD Small Business Express grant and loan that allows us to increase our employee headcount by more than 30% in the past 2 years. Hard to do in a pandemic. LM Gill also participates in the Connecticut Department of Labor Apprenticeship Program, which has provided a track for young people coming out of technical school to be matched up with a mentor within our shop to help them learn the trade. It has been a crazy year, and I'm happy that we as a state are making it through. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to the discussion.
All right, thank you. We'll move to Nalini.
Hi, thank you, Jimmy, and thank you everyone for having me on such a great panel we have today. So my name is Nalini Gulsaran. I am the founder and CEO of Edge Space Marketing. We provide digital marketing services to small businesses and nonprofits who were the hardest hit during the pandemic. When the business first started, it was just me. I did everything from the beginning to the end, and I've been very happy to say that during the pandemic, the team has expanded to a team of 4. We now also provide expanded services and are pivoting with our clients as their business models evolve during these trying times. So really looking forward to discussion and of course the year to come, because it's a lot of great things in the future.
Definitely. So glad you're here. And last and certainly not least, the gentleman of the group. So Ramon, you know, not only did you fall last alphabetically, but my mother raised a gentleman, so we had to let the ladies go first. But so we'll allow you to go last, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company.
First, you're gonna have to excuse my British accent, okay? My name is Ramon Flores. I'm originated from Dominican Republic, and I've been in El Mercado supermarket for the last 28 years. But as you know, this last year have been a big struggle. And I want to thank the governor Lamont for the bottom of my heart. I also thanks Sama very much for helping me getting into all these institutions: HECO, DECD, SBA, PPE, PPP, and DECD. Without them, I won't be in business. At the beginning, we all know it was a struggle. We don't know what was going to happen, right? So I had a big things with all employers. They all want to quit. So I went to Sama. I said, I'm running to this situation. So they gave me help all around, economical, with the manpower and everything. So it helped me so much that nowadays the business is doing much better than what it did before the pandemic. And I thank everybody so much. You guys been, so helpful. And I'm so glad. I really thank everybody. My family don't believe that I'm still in business. and better than before. So thank you. Thank the governor, and I thank Sam, you guys, for having me here. And I very glad to be with you guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks for being with us, Ramon. So here's what we're doing. We're gonna jump right into a round of questions. I wanna ask each one of you something very specific and give you an opportunity to share. So we'll start with Ivy. And so Ivy, you run a catering and events planning business. I read an article last week that said your industry was booming with a 2-year sharp increase in profitability from 2017 to 2019. Then the pandemic came and it crippled the catering and event planning / restaurant industry as people stayed home, and the ability to meet and gather was impacted by local, state, and CDC guidelines. So how have you managed to enjoy success in an industry and during a time that's devastated so many of your peers?
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's actually very emotional for me to talk about, because the past year, and I'm probably going to circle back to this, but the past year has been more mental and emotional than even the financial part of it. The catering, I'm very glad to say, is a supplementary business to what we have. We were looking at 2017, 2018, even in 19, we were able to raise our prices, which definitely was helping with our bottom line as far as catering goes. We had more weddings. I was bringing on more staff, and honestly, everything was looking really great. Then obviously the pandemic hit. We did not know what was going to happen. We were kind of told it might be a couple of weeks. We had April weddings that were booked asking us what they should do. We did not know. So we are on the list at a couple of state venues. So we were fortunate enough to say, whatever the venue is telling you, that's what we should do. But for our April and May weddings, up until 2 weeks or a week before, we were ready to go with them, not knowing what was going to happen. We were struggling with, what is the PPE that we're supposed to be doing? What are the guidelines? How many people at a table? How many people can join these events? Now we're supposed to be outside, we're supposed to be inside. So the amount of time and hours that went into probably April through July of last year definitely was probably the hardest part, more so than the financial side of it. I was very, very fortunate that probably 90% of my events were able to reschedule either for the fall of 2020 or the spring and summer of 2021. Even in the fall, we obviously had lesser counts. We had to change venues. We had to put more staff on. So that was a learning curve also. Gloves, no gloves, barriers for buffets, all of that stuff. Coming back into 2021, we now have all of the events and weddings that were booked for 2021, which start booking in 18, and we have our postponements. So this year, our industry is beyond booked. Not just caterers, but photographers, bands, DJs. We are beyond booked, and we are running into the staffing shortage, but we're just taking a deep breath, doing as much as we can, doing it correctly. And I personally am really focusing on the contracts that I already have, which means I am saying no to more business coming in right now. I cannot go and overwork my staff or compromise my standards to bring in the extra work right now. I have been very, very blessed with a couple of grants and the fact that some of my employees have been able to collect to survive this. So I just am concentrating now on doing my events, doing them correctly, and making sure that my clients are happy and safe at their events. Also, the pandemic brought me the chance to really analyze my business. I can tell you that as a business owner, running these two businesses, I was essentially drowning in my business and didn't realize a lot of what was going on. So stepping back, having the time to look at things, look at numbers, look at books, look at our workloads and who's doing what, really opened my eyes to a lot of things within my business. And I'm very happy to say that I feel like I'm almost starting over, but with the experience and knowledge that I have now, I feel like I'm starting over again, but kind of know a lot more things now than I did before.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll jump to Elisa. So Lisa, you own a brewery, and I think it's safe to say that The pandemic has caused everyone to want to run out and grab a drink. But COVID has created significant gathering challenges and made selling drinks, whether to individuals or to businesses who sell to individuals, a very difficult thing. So what have you had to do differently to generate consistent revenue streams during these times?
And Jimmy, I have to bring you back to March of 2020, because I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that my first business, which is, and a lot of people don't, they say, well, why did you name the beer company Rhythm? And that's because I am a professional salsa dancer, and they would call me the Rhythm Finder. And so they would say, if Elisa can't find your rhythm, that must mean that you might not have it. And so with that said, we named the brand directly correlating with my 20-year history of salsa dancing here in Connecticut. So in March of 2020, we had, and I'm just going to piggyback off of you, we were booked for weddings, we were booked for colleges, we had full classes going, we were running 6 days a week out of the dance studio, and in an instant, that one business was shut down immediately. And it was a mourning process, because I went from doing something for 20 years straight, never stopped dancing for 20 years, to in 48 hours to absolutely nothing. And I had to sit there and I had to process that. But now I had this new child, which I call this the second child, and the beer brand, and dang, we're essential. So liquor stores, package stores, breweries are staying open. So I had to process the one business that was going to shut down, and we didn't know when it was coming back, to the beer brand. And we had to pivot immediately. We had to connect marketing strategies, sales initiatives. We had to make sure that our brand was out in the forefront, in the lead, because we said we're in the beer industry. We've got to make sure that people know about Rhythm Brewing Company. And the blessing was that one door with the dance studio had temporarily closed, because we knew we were going to find a way to survive and get back on the dance floor. But with the beer, we knew it was an immediate industry that everyone would be involved in. But they got to know about a female-owned beer brand in a male-dominated industry. And so a lot of people had the time to sit down during a pandemic and find out about businesses like the people that you have on your panel. They would have never known that we existed. And so we took the blessing of having this new beer brand, and it made us work harder. It made us have to figure out, what are we going to do with this brand? And I will tell you what the pandemic did for us. In 3 years, we are now in 480 locations, including Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Big Y, ShopRite, mom and pop shops down the street, around the corner. And we are thankful. But I will tell you, those big brand box stores might not have recognized us if our state had not invested the time, the energy, the money, the grants into Rhythm Brewing Company, because they saw something unique. They saw a brand that could survive and thrive in the alcohol space. And so with that said, it was an emotional roller coaster, March of 2020. And I'm happy to say that our dance studio is back up and running. We just had our first class just last night. And so people are back in on the dance floor, and we are excited. So I'm switching out from my brewing boots to my salsa heels, and it feels good, but it was a lot. It was a lot for the year. It took a lot to really try to survive in this, but it took a lot of help and a lot of patience and a lot of people that believed in us. And so we are thankful.
All right. So you said a few things there, that I just want to, I think, which leads into the next question. You talked about, how do you create awareness for stuff? You talked about having to make some adjustment in terms of your marketing strategies to make people aware of where you are and who you are during these times. And so that brings me to kind of our marketing person, Nalini. And so during this pandemic, clearly we know that businesses have had to make budget cuts to survive during this pandemic. And so from that, I can see how your industry's taken hits. But I can also argue that effective marketing may be all the more essential during these times. And so how have you managed to make companies see the value of investing money to make money with edge-based marketing during these times?
Thanks, Jimmy. It's a really good question. And it was a very interesting start to the pandemic. Much like Ivy and Elisa said, March, my business came to a screeching halt because my businesses that I work with are small businesses and nonprofits, all of which came to a screeching halt. None of us knew what was going to happen. No one knew what would come next. And as the pandemic progressed, businesses started realizing, like, hold on, people aren't driving by my storefront anymore. People aren't they're quarantining their mail and tossing anything that's just not important and only dealing with things that are important because of the risk involved with, transmission of COVID and such. So businesses themselves started realizing that they need a digital presence. The reality is, we've all heard the saying, if a tree falls in the wood and no one is there to hear it, did it make a sound? The same goes for any small business. If they do not have a digital presence, many consumers are going to doubt the validity of your business. They're going to doubt whether or not you've really been in business as long as you had. And then, of course, there's the whole credibility and value. If you have an outdated website, interestingly enough, I've offered search engine optimization as a service from the very beginning of my business. But it's a service that didn't really do well in the last 2 years. It was one of my lesser known services. People either knew me as a social media person or the web development person, neither both. And nobody ever really cared about the SEO stuff until now, because they started realizing Google is the only way people are finding their business. And so it's become a very core backbone for businesses. I started teaching classes during the pandemic for libraries, for local co-working space, and really used the year to educate our community on the value of digital marketing, and not just the value, but how they can do it for themselves. A lot of this stuff is doable if you understand the nuts and bolts. And a lot of them said, okay, I'll do it myself. And then others of them called me. And if I couldn't do it, I found other partners who could do it for them, so that we really tried to build a strong community for our community.
Oh, thank you for that. And that's powerful, right? Your digital footprint and today really matters. And I don't think a lot of small business people really understand that. And I even hear people, you ask people, do you have a website? Do you have social media? Do you have any of that? And not only do they say no, they don't understand why you need it. And so I think, you said something very powerful there, and that digital landscape really defines who you are. Oftentimes, if people Google you and can't find you, they're not going to do business with you. And so that's a very important thing, is to have that digital presence. So I agree with you there, and thank you for that. Julie, we will jump to you. As I think about your industry, kind of welding and manufacturing, my mind goes to wondering how COVID may have disrupted industrial production and more simply, the demand for services that your company offers. And so since you're in a very specialized space, quickly educate us as to the biggest issues that affect your industry right now, and how has your company adjusted accordingly to weather this past year?
It has been a tough year. I think LM Gill Welding is a little bit different than the other cases presented, in that we did have demand for our services. We had orders, and they weren't disrupted because submarines need to be built and production needs to go on. But it was our employees that really, I agree with the other participants in this discussion, is that it was emotional. How do you get that employee comfortable and back into work? And it was just through like relentless, cleaning and just keeping them at the highest. They are our priority. That's why we're successful as our employees. So that was probably the primary. Secondary was vendors closing and unable to deliver material or parts. So you're ready to go into production on a certain part and you don't have a key essential ingredient to it. Figuring out after the part was made, we have a lot of inspections. We have a lot of companies, our customers come in and inspect our product. And we couldn't do that anymore. Honestly, in March, I shut the doors except for our employees. No one was coming in, and you were temperature checked, and you were, if you weren't feeling good and had a sniffle, don't come in. But how do we get those parts inspected? So we had to figure that out remotely. And then maintenance of machinery, repair, that was a challenge. You know, everything that just we took for granted was just out the door, and we had to rethink it. Honestly, we locked the front door. We just recently opened it to let people in the front door, but you had to call. People were held outside. Thank God we had a pretty good summer and fall, that it wasn't really bad weather, that we could meet people outside. Matter of fact, I had a meeting set up. We had a big long table. We were outside in October having a meeting, and that's kind of how we rolled. So, you know, we were just diligent in kind of understanding, I think, first and foremost, what the employees wanted. And we remained open. We were very fortunate until this past January, where we were shut down for 3 days due to a little kind of a cluster of infection. And so we closed down for 3 days. It was a hard decision to make. And we cleaned, we reinforced safety precautions, and then we've been up and running ever since. So we've been very fortunate, you know, appreciate the guidance that is given by the state of Connecticut and the federal government to how to proceed in a pandemic. Honestly, we were kind of at a loss, and we needed information in real time. So it was definitely it takes a village, and to keep running a business.
All right, thank you. You said something that I'm going to come back to very soon, but you know, I want to jump to Ramon. 28 years. You said 28 years of operation, man. That's phenomenal. El Mercado is definitely a gathering place. It's become a community staple. But in the time when the community has not felt very communicable, how have you managed to safely serve that community and keep your doors open?
Let me tell you, it was not easy, because as I mentioned before, nobody knew what was going to happen. Everything was scary, right? So after a week or so, my 25%, 35% of my inventory was gone, and no place where to get them. So with all the help that I got, I even went to Massachusetts. There was a store over there that had some different inventory for the community over there. And I spent an hour with my meat guy, my manager says, we got to do something like this to bring other people in. Because, you know, being there so many years, you get like acquainted to the whole thing and you neglect a lot of things, right? So I went there and I saw so many things. Just the meat alone, I think it went up another 20%, meat alone. Same thing with the produce, same thing with the grocery, because I changed the whole store around. I changed the cases because the help that all you guys gave me, and it's a different store, totally a different atmosphere, because I was lack of service, let's put it like that, because everything was running smooth. But when you're running tight, you have to come up from the bottom and come up with different ideas and put them to work. So I spent some hours with my manager, the meat manager, the produce guy, and I run with him. I went to different supermarkets and then to get some ideas, and I brought them over there. And all those things helped me a lot. And that's why I'm doing much, much better than what I did before the pandemic.
Right, thank you. So there's, I think, a common theme that a lot of you have talked about. And, you know, I know we've talked about the emotional side of things, the dealing with the uncertainty of so many things in business, and it's just created some challenges. And I think I have a couple questions just off of that itself. And the first thing is, you know, we learn a lot about ourselves emotionally in trying times. And so I'm curious to know, what have you learned about yourself during this pandemic? And so I'll throw that out there for any and everybody who wants to answer that.
And the first thing, let me tell you, I'm not a kid, you know, I got my years on, I'm 76. I was neglecting almost every day, almost retired, or I'm retired, what the heck, you know. But when all these things happens, it gave me back another 20 years, I would say, because I work every day, I go to the gym every day, And I'm in the store I don't say every hour, but most of the time I'm there. Huh? And those little things, when you're there too long, you don't see it. Eh? You don't see the dirt. You don't see many things. It comes very common. And I think this is, I don't say thank God that this happens, but after it happens, I woke up totally. And I'm doing much better, physically, mentally, and everything.
All right. All right. Any other thoughts on that? Anybody else? What have you learned?
I can say for myself, I feel like it brought me back to my roots, to trust my instinct, to know what I want to do and how I want to do it, and not say so-and-so is doing it that way, so that must be the right way. And it's not the right way for my business. So it brought me, I remember sitting in my walk-in, I cleaned up my walk-in and repainted it. I remember sitting there crying, just saying, I wasn't in a place where I wanted to be. I want to go back to the way we started out with maybe simpler things or these type of flavors. These are the type of events I want to do. So it gave me the strength to realize I am doing it right, and I wanted to follow my heart again. And like Ramon had just said, you open your eyes to a lot of things that had just become like every day, and it just walked over and glazed over. But now I feel like I'm back at the roots and ready to, I'm kind of fired up again.
Good.
One more thing I would say, sometimes you fire a person because it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing and whatever. But they go back to a different company, it's doing well. So it means that I'm doing something wrong, right? Because it's doing the same job, it makes much more money because he's behaving it so well. So sometimes you have to bring yourself in from the inside to outside and say, maybe it's me that's making mistakes, right? So because everybody's good. It depends how you treat them, how you teach them, how you work with them.
Absolutely.
You know,
also have-
I've learned,
Yep.
oh no, go. I've learned that in some of the most chaotic situations, that's where opportunity, that's where you breed opportunity. And so through chaos, in the midst of last year, so much opportunity presented itself. And that's when we knew, okay, we could, if we survive this, then we could survive anything, running two businesses, the bumps and the bruises. So sometimes when people see a chaotic situation, you tend to run away from that. But as an entrepreneur, those are sometimes when you want to kind of stick towards the chaos, because you have no idea what's on the other side. And what came on the other side 1 year and a few months later, it was a life learning experience, because it really was a entrepreneurial emotional roller coaster for us. But it's been really good. We've learned a ton of lessons for both businesses, but it's made us stronger moving forward in the beer industry, because we really are on a mission and we know exactly where we're going and what we want to do. And if we could survive that, then the chaos, and we know moving forward that we're on the right path.
Right. Right.
If I can chime in, this is Julie, and I agree with what Alyssa just said, and Ivy and Ramon, in that you really figure out what you're made of. But I would say surround yourself with people who challenge you in a positive way. I had a purchasing manager the night the governor came on the television and said, that was a Friday night, and said, we're going to shut down the state on Monday at 8 o'clock. And we kind of all watched that. And this purchasing person pulled me aside and she was mad. She said, what are we doing? And she was frustrated. A lot of things are coming up at that point. And I said to her, I apologize. I don't have like a greater plan, because you were figuring it out as you were going along.
Yeah.
And at that point, I called together my kind of leadership team and said, hey, we got to come in on Saturday morning and figure this out. We're going to have a plan for the customer, for the employees, for the vendors, for the building, what's going to be happening. And we all came in and we met on Saturday morning. And this purchasing person who was upset, she also came into work, and I said, do you want to join us in this meeting? And she said, yes, I do. And she was part of it. She was a driving force. And you know what? She keeps me on my toes. And I appreciate that. So surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you, and have patience. That's kind of what I've learned about myself.
And for me, echoing everything that everyone said, the biggest lesson for me is we are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. You know, as the times were changing month to month, day to day, you were pivoting. What you figured out yesterday is no longer what you're going to do today because something's completely different, right? And so moving with that, I also learned really quickly how to let go of control. It's my baby. You know, all of us here, these are our babies. And I was a team of one, knowing I couldn't do the work by myself anymore, especially with the emotional toll it was taking, and finding that support system, and knowing, you know, I ended up joining a couple mastermind groups and figuring out, listen, if we got to get on the phone and cry for an hour, we're going to cry for an hour because we've got to process what we're going through and then solutionize, right? It was a lot of finding new solutions. Sometimes we're bringing back old solutions and figuring out what's working, and knowing that every client was different. In the past, we kind of had a formula, and you just regurgitated the formula and it worked. And now the formula every day is a different formula. You're like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So expanding the team, influencing them and coaching them, and making sure that they were able to do, to Ramon's point, you know, get the best out of them when you kind of don't know what the best thing is at the moment, was very interesting to navigate. But also for me, just letting go of control, because I want to do everything because I'm the only one that can do it right. And that's not true. So finding the right people, growing the team, and then giving them the trust and the space to do what they need to do. One of the biggest things I always say, especially we're in a creative space, is you've got to let creative people create. So I might give general guidance, but I don't go in and say, make the box blue, make it this, make it that. I kind of go, this is the general guideline. You come up with something and then we'll fix it together if it doesn't work.
Yeah, you just said some stuff there, Nalini. We could do a whole workshop
Yeah.
on that how to let go of control thing, right? Because that speaks
My
to
gosh.
effective teams, empowering others, management styles, understanding your own, understanding others, how that all works together as a matrix, understanding that whole topic of micromanagement. We might have another workshop. I think we got something in the future. We're gonna have you back so we can do something on that. We can't let that one go. But tied into what so many of you still talk about on this whole emotional thing, and that impact, but keeping with that is this need for self-care and the emotional self-care. And we always struggle, especially as small business owners, with the work-life balance anyway, because there is no, you know, people say, oh, thank God it's Friday. Well, what does that mean to a small business owner? It's a 7-day, right, a week thing. So that really has no bearing, but it's easier to get put in this place where you're not taking care of yourself emotionally and not doing the self-care thing. What have been your self-care habits that have kind of gotten you through this to keep you in a good mental space?
So I can jump in on that one. My thing that I started doing, particularly this year, was I would take either a half day on Wednesdays or all Wednesdays off, because like you said, we work 7 days a week, right? The work never stops. We never stop. We're always thinking. And Wednesdays was kind of a break right in the middle of all the chaos of the week. And whether it's get out of the house and go sit at West Beach for an hour and just kind of watch the waves roll, you know, it was go for a walk every day, those kind of things. I'll admit the last 2 months have kind of fallen off my Wednesday. I work every day again. So with the weather warming up, I'm hoping to get back into that habit. But you know, I'm at another point. I'm like, do I need another team member now so I can do that? So, but I think it's making sure you get out of the house, even if you're just going for a walk, and taking the time away. Because I find as long as I'm in this house, I'm going to get on my computer. There's no way that I can step away from this computer or my phone or the email and not jump on something, because everything feels like a fire.
Yeah.
That's
Anybody
good.
else? Any thoughts on that one? Anybody else have any self-care habits?
I can say when we first shut down, we completely closed for the month of April. I think April last year. I live right on the coast, so I was able to walk every single morning. We went on hikes. We found different trails to do. It was amazing. And I can say that I was genuinely happy while I was doing that. We opened partially. Those walks became smaller and less frequent. We opened back to regular. I still had limited staff, so I was here working. I can say that from September till about 2 months ago, that I let myself get back into working 24/7, like you said. A couple of things from me is I now make commitments and I stick to them. We are going to the tulip farm tomorrow night. I am babysitting my 2-week-old niece tonight. I also shut email notifications off on my phone, and none of my clients, very few of my clients have my personal cell phone. So I can still log in or click the mail button on my phone, but at least I'm not sitting there going, there's 32 emails that I have to answer right now, because they really can wait. So I am trying to do, when I go home at 7 o'clock, I'm home. Doesn't always work, but at least it's not constantly in my face as much as it was before.
And I'm just going to tell you that Sunday dinners at mom and dad's house, that's a must. I'm not missing that. I shut everything off. Mom says she goes, Elisa, dinners are special. They always have been. So I will tell you, Sundays dinners at mom and dad's with the family, really that was self-care. And even in the beginning of the pandemic, we couldn't, we weren't going over to the parents' house. So for 6-7 months, we missed that. But now it is family time. We're fully vaccinated, and we're just excited that we can go break bread on Sundays. And then I would also walk to my dance studio, and I would still turn the music on. There'd be no one there, but I would have the mirrors, and I would be able to just let it go. That was my therapy. So I utilized the dance studio as therapeutic dance to get me through a pandemic. So between mom's cooking and a little bit of Latin dancing, I was good.
Mom's cooking is always a good thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I will say that don't retire, yet continue on, because like I said before, right now I'm doing more things than what I did 5 years back. Right now I'm working another business because I feel strong. I don't want to lay down. I want to continue on. And I see like Kentucky, the owner of Kentucky started what, 62, 63, something like that. Look what he left behind. And he died about 91. So I still got another 20-something years, I hope. I'm more alive than anything else right now. And it's always an opportunity, no matter how old you are or whatever is wrong with you. It's always an opportunity there. So we have to take advantage of it. Mm. I take more time off than you guys do because, with the reason for but I'm doing good things. I thank all of you guys, heck on everybody, Sama, because they've been so grateful to me. Grateful. Continue on, don't stop.
All right. Any other self-care tips? So I'll just simply say I love to read. It allows me an escape and explore different subjects that I like to read and learn about. It's a learning opportunity where it puts me in my own space and I can be focused and try and kind of self-develop. So whatever it is, we encourage you to find your area of self-help and make sure you focus on your emotional well-being. We've got about 15 minutes left and I got a million questions, but I want to turn this over to our participants who are watching and want to give them an opportunity to ask some questions. So we can do this a couple ways. One, you can put questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will do our best to get to all the questions that we can in the next 15 minutes. And so I see a question posted in the chat, which says, during the last year in my community of Middletown, we've had a record number of new business registrations of all types. It says, what is your best advice for a startup? And I'm gonna ask if you, I don't know if anybody wants to take that or if we need more information in regards to advice concerning what, because there's so many aspects for a new startup, but I don't know if anybody wants to take it as is, and if the gentleman wants to kind of further explain that question, but I'll ask our panelists, does anybody have an answer to that question the way it's posed? Looks like Ramon wants to take it.
I would say, any business you go into at the beginning, you put a lot of time to it, investigate a lot. That's the main thing, because sometimes I'm going to do this business because the one in the corner is doing good. I'm going to do whatever, such a city. But it might work for that person, but for you, it might be different. So do some a lot of study. It takes you time before you get into it, before you put any money into it, because it sometimes doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to get really involved in it 100% in order to jump in it. Because they could tell you a million stories that it's good, they're doing this and this and that. But when you get there and you get to the bottom, it's a different story.
Yeah, Ramon said something so important. Before we even made a drop of beer, we had to research the industry for about 4.5 years. So whatever you're getting into, whatever industry it is, know all about it. And then take last year's obstacles and things that we've learned through a pandemic. Things are going to change. So put that into your thoughts and on paper, and then develop a business strategy, a business plan. But entrepreneurs, if you're out there listening, whatever you do it with passion. Get into something that you're going to say, you're not looking at a clock and you don't mind going in early and leaving even later. So do it with passion, research the industry, and dive in the pool and hope there's water. And so that's, what we say as entrepreneurs, but but go for it. I love the fact that small businesses are popping up in Middletown. It's actually a great area. So yeah.
I'm sorry. I when I got it here in Hartford, Connecticut, I live in New York City. After I got into this business, believe it or not, for 1.5 years, I drive from New York City. I used to get up 4 o'clock in the morning, drive here, and live here at 7:30 in the afternoon every single day for 2 and something years. Because it looks good and everything, like I said before, but it's a little corner that you don't know what's going on and what's happening. And finally, I sacrificed myself, and then everything worked out good. And the beginning was rough, let me tell you, very rough.
I have 2 things that, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I have 2 things that I've definitely learned over the past 10 years. One is make sure you have a support team, whether it's your husband, kids, best friend, parents, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have someone there to support you, because you will need it. We love these businesses, but they do get overwhelming. So you have to have that person that will keep you going, that will tell you that you're doing a great job, to remind you of why you started it. The other thing is figure out your strengths and then pay people to do the other things. I am not an accountant. I do not know what I'm doing. I was taught how to do my payroll for the very small team that I have, but I have the most amazing accountant who does reviews all my taxes, does all my taxes. She has been my savior for PPP, WBDC, RRF, all of these things that have come up in this past year. And the amount that I've paid her, I've received back probably tenfold in mental sanity and financial health. So there's a few things that I do let go of, but I know my passion is I love to cook and I love my customers. Social media, I do hire out, accounting I hire out, and severe deep cleaning I hire out, because I just don't have the time or the energy for that in my life. But it also gives me such great peace to know that I have that team with me.
And I think just to add to all of that, because I think those are all advice that I would give as well, but don't discount the value of networking. The 99% of the business that I have today, almost all of it comes from referrals, from classes that I teach, from people that I meet. And a lot of times people approach networking as, I'm going to come tell you about my business. And that's not really what it is. Get to know the person. Who are they? Why did they start their business? Do they have families? Do they live here? The relationships that you build with these people are the ones that become your strategic partners. They're the people that are going to send you business because you're memorable to them. And people in this, we want to know each other. It's not just about a transactional relationship. Right. It's about the long-term, there's people that I've known now for 2 or 3 years. I saw them over and over at networking events. And now we talk every day during the pandemic or even before that. And it's just checking in. How are you? How's your family? How can I help you? How can I help your business? And you'd be amazed at people that suddenly start reaching out and going, are you okay? What do you need? And you would never think to stop and ask for that help. So build those relationships. They will be the foundation of how your business grows.
I want to say the last thing. I thank Sama and Heco so much. Before I opened the door in El Mercado, Sama and Heco was there with a loan. So I thank you very much and highly appreciate. Without you guys, I won't be here. So thank you very much again.
Thank you for that, Ramon. Ivy, you mentioned earlier, you talked about dealing with staffing shortages. And so we have a question that was just posted that said, what advice can you give to those businesses that are reopening but facing a challenge in finding new employees?
When you
To
figure
be
it out,
honest
let
with
me know.
It's a big challenge now. With all those money they get without working, I got 4 employees that left. Now they're collecting Social Security. Now they're getting the stimulus money. They make more money now than what they did working. So it's a big thing over there. I don't know. My brother has a business in New York City. Out of 24 people, he only got 15 left because they make more money, than working. It's very rough right now. I don't know if they're going to stop out or not, but something has to be done.
It's a challenge. Has anybody found successful strategies in finding employees when you've had staff shortages?
So I will say that for my staff that did come back right away and the staff I have brought on, we're trying to figure out ways that financially might not come out of the company's pocket that are benefits to them coming. So I may give them food, more flexible with hours right now. I will be honest and say that I've had staff that have refused to come back, and I said, do not come back here in September. I'm looking for a job. There are good people out there. It's just a matter of finding them. And there's little things that my employees are really appreciating, whether it's leaving at 2 o'clock to get their kids. And I specifically say, why don't you get your child off the bus today? And I pay them for 2 hours. I obviously can't give away much more than I am, but I also realize the importance that these staff have stuck with me and what I expect out of them over the next couple of months, while I know that other people are just sitting at home collecting. So trying to find little things that I could make as a perk that don't really affect my bottom line as much, but showing my appreciation for the staff.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
I would just say quickly, to find people that believe in what you're doing just as much as you are. I have been completely blessed. I call them the Rhythm Nation. They are people that have been supporting this brand pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. It's a labor of love, and it's not that I'm paying them in beer, but it's just literally they have been there with us since day one. They see a vision, they see where this is going. And so if you're out there looking for those people that are going to jump on your team, you'll know it, you'll see it, you get that little, oh my gosh, this person is really kind of just as invested as I am. And they'll jump on your team with or without, you saying, okay, well, I can pay you this, or I can pay you that. Get some passionate folks that know in the long run that they will have a seat at your table. And that's what we've learned in our business. And so it's worked very well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Any other questions? We have about 6 minutes left. Are there any other questions for our panelists? Anyone?
I was going to ask Julie, have you had issues with your staffing, and how did it work having everybody in the same facility? Did you have to spread out your machines? I mean, you can't just move those things very easily.
We did. We took a look at actually every cell and how they're interacting, giving them, their personal protective gear, what they needed, what they were comfortable in. Some people did not like masks. They wanted, a shield, anything, wiping things down, but it has been a challenge. And we did have at the beginning of the pandemic, some people leave for various reasons, comfort level, it was the age that they were. But we've also found some very good people as well. Trying to be flexible as time, if someone needs a little flexibility, we're very conscious of that. Just trying to keep talent, trying to keep the good people, because we're in it for the long haul. It's not just going to be short term. So it's a challenge also in Connecticut with manufacturing. We're trying to get, more younger people. So I've taken an interest in the trade schools and communicating with them and people coming out of school. How can we help them and get them up to speed? Because they're going to have great jobs in the next 20 years. So it's in some ways it's exciting, but it is challenging.
Yes, it is.
So we'll do this final question that came in, and I know some of you have mentioned HEDCO, some of you have mentioned SAMA, and I just want to tap into what other local or municipal economic development resources agencies have you been able to tap in to find help?
So for me, I worked with the Women's Business Development Center, and I also work specifically with SCORE. I think we've all had varying degrees of success depending on who you get and what you're looking for. During the pandemic, I found a gap in the process for search engine optimization. And through the WBDC's grant, I'm going to be able to build out a platform that's going to help small businesses do that for themselves in the long term, right? So more about empowering others, but the WBDC's grant is going to be really helpful to get that off the ground and also bring in more staff to do some of that. And then just working with SCORE and finding the right fit. Not every mentor is going to be the fit. And so I tried a few different ones till I found the ones that we clicked with.
Anybody else that has leveraged resources for help?
Well, I would say I went through a lot of different companies, but everything was through SAMA and through HECO. They guide me out of the whole thing, and they opened the door big time for my business. So one way or the other, SAMA has to be involved, or HECO, because they the big door. They guide you everywhere. If you have anybody has any problems, go to them and they will help you out.
Like with us, I have to tell you, the Black Business Alliance, the BBA, WBDC, HEDCO, PPP, we had such an enormous, strong arm of people that just guided us. And it wasn't just about, okay, there's paperwork getting thrown at you, because not only are you dealing with a pandemic, you're trying to keep your business open. But when you have organizations like BBA and Women's Business Development Center, and they're there with you, they're guiding you, they're saying, all right, stay encouraged, because it gets overwhelming.
Yes.
We could not have done it, honestly, with the guidance, the mentorship that held us through this last year. And you know what the great thing is? Now there's going to be even more opportunities and networking. And so we just want to, thank everyone that has been out there. My own Westville Arts Village Center, the PPPs and the grants would come in, and they thought about us and our small business. And so we're just very thankful and grateful for everyone that has extended those opportunities to us.
Real quick, I just want to also thank the WBDC, and as far as the restaurant, the Connecticut Restaurant, the National Restaurant Association has been a huge help. One thing I did not realize is all this help was there pre-pandemic. Because of the pandemic, we had time to find them. But I know for myself, I have prioritized reading the emails that come in rather than just deleting them, and trying to really take time to watch some of the webinars through all the different foundations. And I think one thing that people could help us do is don't forget about us in a year. Check in financially, mentally. What else do we need to recover from this? Because I know personally, this is going to be affecting my business for probably 5 years or so, if everything goes back to normal. So just don't forget about us in the future. And to everyone else, just keep an eye out. Find these organizations, see what they have. There's always something you can pull from it.
Yes, it is.
All right. And so I'll announce one other opportunity that's available to businesses that have been in business for less than a year. HEDCO just announced last week a entrepreneur search competition called The Next Big Thing. And it is a contest opportunity for early stage companies to receive funding to kind of launch, accelerate, or scale their idea. And it's a 3-round contest, which there's a $10,000 prize, a $10,000 grant for the business who wins this competition. You have to submit a 90-second video to info@headcoinc.com. But if you visit Headco's website, headcoinc.com, HEDCOINC.com, there's a link to get all of the competition rules, but it's an opportunity if you've been in business for less than 12 months to receive a $10,000 grant. And all of the directions, instructions are there if you log on to that to check it out. So we have come to the hour point and want to be respectful of everyone's time. I am incredibly thankful for this phenomenal panel of people who come together to share their secrets of success during this past year. And so I thank you all for being here. I thank you for the people who've taken time out of their calendar early in the day on a work day to be with us and to share, to receive information that we hope truly allows you to be successful in some kind of way. So thank you to my panelists. If you have any final comments, we'll let you kind of make any final comments that you need to make. And after that, we will conclude this panel discussion and let people get back to their days.
I just want to say a quick thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to all the panelists for the great discussion. And for those businesses that are still working on it, still making it, congratulations and good luck. You know, we're all going to get through this.
Sure.
All right.
Well said, Nalini.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. This is a great way to meet other entrepreneurs but then again, to connect with the community. And I always say the time is now. Don't sit on this. If you're thinking about something, go in, just the time is now, 2021. But thank you so much for the invite.
All right. Everyone,
Thank you very much.
again. Have a great day, everyone, and be well. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much. I think it was
Thank
very nice,
you.
very important, very successful, I would say.